So we always like to start with who's here, who signed up for the event, and thinking about AI customer experiences this time, specifically order management. A few well-known teams and logos. We know that the product teams are different at every company that we work with, but it's really exciting to see that folks are starting to build and take AI customer experiences really seriously for different products in 2024 and 2025. So that said, if you're new to Voiceflow, we help product teams build and deploy better AI customer experiences. We take a design-led approach, collaborative across product teams, incredibly extensible and customizable with dev tools and APIs, which you'll see a lot of what Pete uses today and what Nico used earlier this week. And we're all about building for scale and collaboration across teams. So excited that we have a variety of teams and different roles that are repping these product teams handling AI customer experiences today. So that said, in making bots, we're usually seeing two types of AI agents and their respective goals. Usually we break that into two things, reducing costs or increasing conversions. Today, Pete, would you agree that we're more on the reducing cost side with order management and what typically might be a manual or live agent handled approach? We're going to automate that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you could also argue that it will increase conversion in the long run because making a seamless refund flow would make it easier for customers to have trust in your business and know that you're going to look after them and they'll keep returning because you made that thing easy. So
Yeah, good call out. There's some good data to track around like how great automated support and conversational support then impacts down funnel retention and basket size. But yeah, excited to really narrow in on what that cost per ticket will look like and even a resolution rate around order actions to be taken. So that's the focus of today as we hope to be more specific about different use cases with AI customer experiences. And again, if maybe this is your first time at a Making Bots, what we typically will do is think about the Voiceflow platform and the workflow for these teams under build, deploy, and scale steps. We also have our companion event, which is the Dev Labs. This is the Making Bots arm of that. So the way we look at it is that Dev Labs is going to focus more on the dialogue manager, the custom interface, and the developer APIs, where today we're taking a lot of what they built earlier this week and using workflow builder, logic, a custom knowledge base and intent classification to then actually deploy that experience and really think about the conversational state. So a lot of what Pete does on a day-to-day basis with all of our teams and customers. But Pete, I will throw it over to you to give a little bit of tease conceptually into what these different extensions and the different actions or workflows this order agent's handling.
Yeah, for sure. So I think the big thing that we've done with this one is we've used a lot of Voiceflow extensions, and extensions essentially extend the capabilities of the chat widget using a custom JSON. So I can't claim that I did any of these. These are all Nico, but we work together in kind of designing them and getting them all ready. So the first one, we've got a display form. Then we have also a product display form. So how do you display your products within the chat widget? So it's really easy for a customer to kind of say, these are the things that I want refunded, etc. And then we also have a whole heap of in-conversation and animations, which allow us to make the kind of waiting period between calling an API, doing an action and everything like that. It makes those sort of periods go really, really fast because you're giving this like visual intrigue. It's very similar to how if you go to a doctor's waiting room, there'll be a big TV there. The reason that they're doing that is to make like time go faster because you're focused on something else and you're not focused on the fact that you've been in a doctor's waiting room for an hour and a half and it's before your doctor's appointment and you still haven't seen them yet. So yeah, that's basically the kind of idea behind those little bits from the order flow. So next slide. So basically, how did I think about this flow? So this flow was actually designed twice. So I originally designed it in a very particular way. And then Nico built his dev things. And basically the stuff that I had kind of designed didn't work because that's not the way that the Shopify API worked. So we had to go back and think about how we wanted to do this. So basically the way that we're thinking of this is first thing we're doing is the user logged in? And if they aren't, then we're going to capture the user's email and verify with an OTP. Now, I'm not actually going to do the verify with an OTP today because Shopify's API can be a little bit slow and could be, about a 30-40 second wait time for that. But that is in the project. Next thing we're going to want to know is do we know the order number? And If we do, then we're going to go over to check whether we know the product and the reason for the refund. But if we don't, we're going to give the user 3 different options to basically give us their order number. And this is really so that we can kind of make it easier for them to find the products and all that sort of thing. So first one is we're going to give an option to scan a QR code that will be on their order. The next one is just, give us your order number and we'll go from there. And then we'll also have another one where we would just say, hey, here are your most recent orders, like select one of them. So once we've done that, we're going to be checking, do we know the product, the reason for the return? And if we do know the product and reason, basically we're going to show them a form with everything pre-populated. So what we're doing is we're kind of, as you saw with JetBlue and that sort of thing in the last Making Bots, like we're always listening in to make sure that we understand what's happening at any point in time in the conversation so that we can make things a bit more frictionless for the customer. Then we want to go, do they qualify for a gift card? So is the issue or the reason for their refund, does that qualify for a gift card? So, is it a manufacturing default, something like that? And if we do, we're going to give them a gift card and some return instructions as well. So let's jump into the actual agent.
Yeah. While you pull that up, one thing I wanted to call out when I was exploring New Balance, but also other retail brands like Timberland and Away Luggage, a lot of e-com and retail brands will hide their order status or orders intent as its own tab or its own form. And I think this is really interesting that we're like not only pulling it up to the widget and pulling it up to like the experience interface, but you just talked about 3 ways to check your order versus everyone's had this experience just what's your order number, right? And it's very much like a tree-based bot that a lot of point solution, simple tools allow you to do that, right? It's like a very, here's your order, here's this. So I'm really excited to see the work you did in terms of like the different ways you can activate the orders here.
Yeah, for sure. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to come into this and just do something really simple and say, I want a refund, just to kind of show you the different ways that you can go through this. So I want a refund, and I should be prepared with a little QR code that I'll get up on my phone in a second. So we're going to say, scan your QR code. Hopefully this works with all the lights that I have pointing at me. If not, I'll try. As you can see, there is a bit of glare there. So yeah, it hasn't worked this time. It looks like there's too much glare on my screen, but that's all good. So we'll go 1004. That was the order number. And then you can see these little animations happening in the background. So checking the details, looking up your order, locating your items, preparing your return form, et cetera, et cetera. So that's all happening kind of in the background. And we're using these little animations to let the user know that all these things are happening in the background. So you can see here, we've got the fresh foam shoes, we've got these ones, et cetera. So we'll just go these ones and we'll just say they didn't fit or something like that. We'll go through to the next part. We've got a little processing your refund animation happening. And, we've got the message saying your return has been processed. Here's what to do next. And it gives the user all the details as to how to finish their return. Now, where I think this agent really shines, let me just start a new chat. And I'll just make sure that we've set everything, is I could go, I want a refund for my 503 shoes. The sole came apart after one run. How I showed you before, we've got that kind of order form and everything that will just kind of have all the shoes and everything on there, and we have to give an order reason. So what we're going to do here is we're going to actually take this all from that utterance, and then we're going to pre-populate everything in the thing. So you can see 503 shoes, it's already selected them. The sole came apart after one run, and then we're going to submit this. And hopefully the large language model goes, yep, this is a manufacturing fault. It hasn't this time. That's okay. But yeah, what should happen here is we've got a large language model looking at the reason for the return, and it should be going, hey, we should get a gift card here. Unfortunately, it hasn't this time. But let's jump into the flow and I can take you all through it and we'll go from there. So give me a sec. Let me share my
Yeah,
screen.
someone had a good question that like, is this a test store or live? So we actually built a Shopify store for this to mirror the New Balance customer data. Obviously, as I called out in the beginning, you might have Shopify, you might be on Salesforce Commerce Cloud. All of this is done through our extensibility and via API. So Pete, correct me if I'm wrong, you're pulling in all of that order data, regardless of where that order CRM is living. You could do that. You can do that.
Yeah,
regardless.
definitely. So yeah, that's all happening in the background. Like we're just connecting to the Shopify API and that's how we're doing it all. Cool. So let's go. Basically, just to test this, because we didn't have a way of saying, are you logged in or are you not logged in? We didn't kind of build that into the agent. We kind of have two different ways that you get into this flow. So in this one, we are setting the logged in status to this. We're setting the user's email for the demo, and we're setting the Shopify API key. Now, if the user is not logged in, we're going to check whether we have the email. And if they're not, we're going to check whether that email is found. Now, once we have that email, and if they weren't logged in, we're going to go through this flow where we're going to send an OTP over to their email. This is just a whole heap of kind of API steps that Nico's put together, which I'm fairly sure they go through all of this in the Dev Labs webinar that happened the other day. So you can have a look at that there. Then the kind of main thing in this flow where everything's kind of happening is this little block here, which is determining what we're going to do next. So we have a fairly lengthy prompt, which is basically going, the thing that we need the most is the order number. So, make sure that we get a 4-digit order number. And then we've got all these different actions depending on what to do next. So continue if the order number is missing and incomplete and the customer seems engaged. Next step if the order has been provided and we're ready to move to the next step of the conversation. Alternative identification if the user explicitly says that they don't know or can't find their order. So if they said, I don't know my order number, then we would go and try and give them the QR code way or another way. RAG if they'd asked a question. So if back on that flow before, and we can have a jump and have a little test of that. If I'd said, where do I find my order number or something, that should connect off to the Voiceflow knowledge base to give the user that information. And then a few other bits. We've got one for off script. So the query itself is just very unrelated. I think I showed this off in the JetBlue one where I think I asked it, do you like cheese or something like that? And then end if they express that they didn't want to keep on going. And then basically this is all happening through this little part here. So we've got a flow here where we're going ask for the QR code and we're going into this extension here where we were using the camera to be able to search for a QR code. And then we have another one here where we're asking for the order number. What we actually decided to do with this one is originally we'd had a lot of LLM kind of looping and all that sort of thing happening. We actually decided as we kind of built out all the integrations and everything like that, the easiest way to do this was kind of marrying a lot of deterministic responses because these things had to be the same every single time. So we just decided, hey, it's actually easier if we just write the responses in here and we can be very direct with what we need next because we're trying to interact with web forms and that sort of thing. So that seemed to be the kind of best way to do things. Once we pull out the number from the QR code, we're going to look up the order number, and then we're just going to jump them over to this little part here where we're determining the conversation direction. And if we believe that we've captured an order number, then we're just going to search for the user, retrieve the order list, and go through that whole thing. So had we done one where we needed to retrieve the order list, it would have looked something like this. A lot of what we did when we were designing this it was actually quite fun. I was sketching out on a piece of paper, this is how I want this thing to look like. These are the things that we need. I would go into Claude, go, hey, Claude, look at this sketch. Can you build out a React kind of thing in there? And then it would build that out for me. I would give it feedback. Then I would once we had it to a point where we were happy with, I would share it with Nico, then Nico would go actually and build that sort of stuff. So that was quite a cool workflow. And similarly, we have like these also for the, how we selected the product, and we needed to provide return reasons and all those sorts of things. So yeah, this is kind of like how it all sort of works and how it all came together. I might quickly just make sure, let's have a look. What I might quickly do is we'll try and get this gift card one to work again. And
could be good live troubleshooting for folks to kind of see the tool in action if that works. Yeah.
I'll try one more time.
Yeah.
It should have worked. But this time what we'll also do, start a new chat. I'll just go. We can try get the QR code to work again if we want. Might try turn one of the lights off so I don't have such a big glare. Go. I need a refund because this is a cool one.
Yeah, this is probably the most unique type of UX that I had seen.
Yeah. So, okay, no, give me a sec. It's kind of awkward to do it. It would make more sense if you're doing it on a mobile. There we go.
There you
QR
go.
scanned successfully. I just needed to turn the light off for the glare. It's extracting the order number, checking the details, doing all that.
Yeah, that animation is so impactful because I feel like a lot of folks are nervous to do, high complexity API calls and prompting because of the latency, right? But I think as models get better and you design efficiently now, yeah, that animation is a nice stopgap for the complexity that unlocks.
Yeah, totally. I think as well, like it just makes that wait. Like that is a long wait that we had to do to get through all those different parts. So having that extension running over the top, going, hey, like something is happening in the background. Like basically we placed an extension, and I'll go back and show that afterwards. But we basically placed an extension at the start of every block. So when you skip to that next block, it'll just load that extension as a thing that's running in the background. So we'll just try this one. Hopefully.
You manually put in the reason, right? The reason for the return.
Yeah. I don't know why this isn't working. We can have a quick. I wonder if try debug this live. If we go over the transcripts, we can have a look at that last conversation.
Yeah, so right now, for anyone who's new to Voiceflow, you're actually looking at the transcripts and the interactions from this exact bot, right? And some of the ones you just did.
Yeah, exactly. So it looks like what happened is it didn't match. Looks like I have a feeling something kind of broke. I have a feeling it's not passing on the refund reason for some reason, and that's why that happened. Basically something, I think it's not passing the refund reason onwards, and because it's not passing the refund reason to the next thing, that we're not actually getting the gift card happening, but that's all good. So yeah, just quickly, the little animations that are happening at every single point. Basically, we have a custom action. We have code within our snippet where the web chat widget is, basically telling us that, hey, this is an animation. And then we have these little custom actions here, which are saying, preparing your return form, like I'm just writing them in, saying the delay that we want in there. And then we're just launching these at the point that we hit every single tab. So if I went to, you can see we start with looking up your orders, locating your items, preparing your return form, and going on until we actually have the return form, which I believe is all the way over here, I think. So yeah, that's basically how this one all works.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Pete, for the flyby. I want to dig into one area. Is you had called out how you used hard coded responses versus prompting sometimes, and I think that's interesting, right? Because I think a lot of folks will either be like, hey, I'm going to use like a black box LLM and like every response is made up, right? It's trained on my data. Maybe that works for some use cases. Or you're going to be like, hey, I'm going to I'm going to hard code everything, right? Like there's kind of like two ends of the spectrum. So curious, why did you like what could you give an example of one place that you did hard code the response and like the rationale behind it?
Yeah, sure. So a good example would be we got to show them the stuff for the QR code. So great, you'll need to have your order handy to scan the QR code. Let me know when you're ready. Like that's not going to be something which I guess happens all the time. So, with like if you're going and hitting a FAQ or something like that, you don't want to have to necessarily write all of these sorts of things. Whereas here you've got this point where we're asking for a QR code. Like this just needs to be the same every time. We need to tell them that you're going to need to have your order handy to scan your QR code and let me know when you're ready, and then having I'm ready, try another way, like very deterministic, very simple, and just having that run over and over. So yeah, that's the reason why we would do that one.
Got it. That's super clear. And I think it's a good example where like no need to spend on tokens or on like variations when it's just like a high level later stage conversation intent at that point around QR or
Yeah, exactly. Where I would probably use something like a QR code like this, where I've done that. I just saw the message from Bilal, is if you were using this on mobile, that would be the best way to do it. Is you're on mobile, you have your order number in front of you, and you can just basically scan the order that you've got right in front of you, and it will just pick up everything from there. So yeah.
Yeah. And it's a good call out. I'll put on the screen here what you're referencing just for folks. A good call out. I think custom interfaces is something that both you and Nico now are doing a lot more with extensions here. You're working with a lot of customers on that front. I think like there's definitely an over engineering of custom interfaces for the sake of a custom interface, right? To Bilal's point, like don't redirect people just for the sake of it. But I think what we've seen is like providing those three options for order returns gives customers a lot of flexibility. One, two,
Exactly.
and then number two, I think Daniel from the Voiceflow team shared a custom interface that someone actually embedded an agent like this in the Shopify product page, right? So like there's a lot. It doesn't always need to be a chat widget, right? You can use our dialogue API and actually deploy it to any custom front end, and maybe that's embedded in the product page or automated via email, or there's a lot of ways to use the conversational state and dev work here, but then deploy it outside of a widget. But yeah, that's definitely just something to consider when you're approaching these projects.
Yeah, totally. So I'm just showing the other way. Like if you didn't have your order number or you didn't have your order with you or anything like that, you can just say, show me my orders, and we would show all the most recent orders. And it's like fairly clear. We've got the order number there. We've saying when it was ordered. We've got the shoes, the cost, and everything like that. So yeah.
Great.
Spent a lot of money on order one, buying 3 of the exact same shoe.
Your whole family's gonna look the same. It's gonna be good. You're gonna match.
Exactly.
Awesome. Well, so we did a flyby of that. We'll make sure we send out the template to everyone. Now we still have Pete here. If there are any questions that people want to consider live, drop those in the chat now, and we can answer those. About this demo. Also, happy to answer questions after the fact on LinkedIn or via email if folks do have questions. So we'll do an all call for any questions here. Bilal had a follow up here. Is it possible to have the same components or features on like a social page, right? Plugging into WhatsApp. I think Pete, you've started to work with WhatsApp with a few teams, yeah?
Yeah, look, I think basically on things like WhatsApp, you're limited to the components that they allow you to use. So if you can use, if they have web forms and carousels and all those sorts of things, buttons like that, then you could build something in. You probably couldn't style it, but yeah, essentially if they have the component, then you could take that component and use it in. Off the top of my head, I don't know whether something like WhatsApp does allow for something like this. Yeah, I guess that's the advantage of being able to have your own chat interface and that sort of thing.
Yeah, and customizing the React chat. Like you can definitely adopt this. Like we have folks deploying to WhatsApp all the time, right? But it's just a very thoughtful user experience of like, why is it on WhatsApp? And maybe you don't need this full, like maybe you don't need the full QR experience because it's mobile, right?
Yeah, totally.
Yannick had a question, and maybe this is a Nico question. Will we get access to the extension codes as well?
Yeah, I do believe so. Well, I've got to speak to Nico about how we're going to package all of this sort of stuff up together so that you all get everything that's in here. I think I have a feeling we'll give you access to the actual website as well, so you can log in, create an order, have a play with it, do all that sort of stuff.
Amazing. Awesome. Great. One question from Juan here. How often do you change the intent listening setting in the capture block to only intents in this block?
In this flow, I think well, if we're talking just in general, so I'll jump back over to the thing here. So give me a sec. I'll jump over here. So in this one, where I would use only listening, where is that? So because we have this conversation direction, like maybe I would actually, if I had lots and lots of intents, I would maybe build this out a bit bigger to then try work out, based on the customer's utterance, have they hit another intent or something like that. I have looked at, and I'm going to have a play with this, but I have looked at using like a custom action to extract our runtime will say what intent it has hit in the background, even if you're only using the listen for these intents only, and then you could add something to the RAG and be like, would you be able to like if you think that they should go to another intent, then you could be like, is this the intent that you think it should go to? If they do think it's that one, then we can populate a jump to intent with that in a variable. I just haven't had time to kind of work out exactly how that would work. But I think in this kind of instance, probably what I would do quite often is, limit it to only listening for intents in this step, but having something which is pretty dynamic in that it can answer with retrieval augmented generation and then bring you back into the flow if you wanted. And also, like, because we have this end flow sort of thing here, we can just kind of go like, if they're completely off topic from what they're talking about, we can go, it'll just jump out to an end flow sort of thing. So yeah.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, Juan, as you jump into the template, feel free to let us know as you play around what you find too with how you build on top of Pete's design. Chad had a question: is there a way to test the extensions from the Voiceflow canvas without having a website, or do we just set up a test website with Webflow and test it that way? So I think he's talking about the chat widget per se here.
Yeah, so at the moment, there's no way to do that within Voiceflow. And generally, your extensions need to be on a server and stuff like that. So yeah, at the moment, there is no way to do it. Hopefully, there is a way to do it soon.
Yeah, got it. Thanks for the question, Chad. Awesome. Last call for any other questions before we wrap and get you guys all the building materials to start applying this to your own. Wonderful. Well, this has been a fantastic making bots. Pete, thank you as always for the builds, and shout out to Nico in the ether for all of his work on getting this stood up as well. We're super excited to see what people push on this in terms of building it within their own bots or adding this order flow. Like, again, that's a good thing to think about, is like maybe you have an FAQ bot already and you want to add this order returns workflow still within that bucket of like automating support and reducing cost per ticket and resolution rate. This is a great way to make your bot a little bit more powerful and impactful. So Pete, thank you as always. Go have another cup of coffee. And we'll, I got to make one call. Lena mentioned in the chat too, if you are around next week, we're going to be doing a retail-focused AI blueprint with the Shopify Plus partner agency, Parkville Commerce. They just did a case study around automating support and product recommendations. That's a great use case for any folks working on retail AI customer experiences heading into Black Friday, Cyber Monday in November. So make sure you click that link and sign up, and we'll be there with Dennis and the Shopify Plus partner team at Parkville Commerce. Well, thank you all for your time and hanging out with us. We'll see you next month.